Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Emi Waldron, who recently just transferred to LaSalle. In her lacrosse career, Emi has appeared in 30 games, picking up 15 points, 11 ground balls, and 16 turnovers. Before college, Emi was selected as the team's most valuable player, first team all-conference, and all-South Jersey honorable mention in 2021 and 2022 as she posted 202 goals, 40 assists, and 130 draw controls in her high school career, as well as being a member of National Honor Society and Spanish Honor Society. I'm super happy to have her on the podcast today. So, Emi, thank you so much for coming on. And how is everything going?
Thank you for having me. It's going good.
Well, how has your summer been going for you so far? And do you have any plans, whether it's lacrosse related or not?
Summer's been good. When school ended, the portal was just about to open. So the first few weeks was definitely a little stressful. But now that I have figured out where I'm going, I've definitely been able to relax a little bit. So now I'm just focused on training and hanging out with my family and friends. So
That sounds awesome. Well, let's talk about that recent portal decision. So obviously, it was recently announced that you were transferring to LaSalle for next season. What led you to make the decision to enter the transfer portal, and why did LaSalle end up being the right place for you?
yeah, so as for why I entered the portal, it ultimately just came down to I wasn't really happy at my last school anymore. I kind of just started to feel myself going in a different direction, and I wasn't really growing there anymore. So I just kind of knew I had to leave. Um, and as for the decision to enter the portal, that was really hard. It was definitely scary. But my parents always raised me and my siblings to just like bet on ourselves, take the risk and see the reward. And that was a really big risk, but finding LaSalle was the biggest reward. And I'm so happy that that's where I'm going to be going. LaSalle was just the perfect place. I'm from South Jersey and I've grown up going to Philadelphia, being in the city. So when I went on the visit there, the coaching staff, Coach Rhodes, Coach Devin, Coach Kell, they put on such a great visit for me. They were so welcoming. And I just kind of did my campus visit and felt like this was the place I was supposed to be. It was all the right vibes. And I just knew that that's where I wanted to go. And being in the A10 is so exciting. I'm so excited to compete at that level and just be in the city too and make new friends and compete.
Yeah. Have you had the chance to meet any of your LaSalle teammates, and what are your goals and expectations with LaSalle for next season?
Yeah, so I haven't met anybody in person yet. Some of the girls, they're just a little further. But I do know my roommates, so I've been chatting with them, and that's super fun getting to know everybody. My goals and expectations are just to compete and play hard all season and, win some games. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing you did mention was you'll be training a lot this summer to get ready for the upcoming season. So, what are some things that you've been working on already to help yourself improve and get better once fall comes around?
Yeah, so I love to lift. My brother's a college athlete too, so we go to the gym together every day. So I've been lifting consistently. I just got my packets from LaSalle, so those have been really fun to do and doing new workouts. And then lacrosse wise, my dad and I go to the turf all the time. So I've just been getting in a bunch of reps, doing a bunch of drills that the coaching staff has sent us all. So yeah, just doing on stick work, shooting and lifting.
What's the competitiveness like between you and your brother at the gym? I assume it's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. So I'm the older one, but he likes to tell me what to do. So it gets pretty intense in the gym, but it's always fun. He pushes me and it's really fun because he knows my limits and he always is pushing me to them and always is it's nice to have him looking out for me too, doing certain exercises and heavier weights. It's nice to have a strong brother.
So let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Collingswood, New Jersey. Talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, so Collingswood's a small town and there's not many lacrosse players that are from here or that are super into it. A good amount of girls play, but it's never really anybody's main sport. I was always super involved in sports. My parents had all three of us always playing different things. I started out as a soccer player, and that was just my thing. And then around like eighth grade, I don't know, I just kind of started to turn to lacrosse. I think I had a pretty bad soccer coach around that time too. So it was the time to make a change. So I joined club. I joined the Shamrocks in South Jersey and started to really like it and just kind of went from there.
Yeah. Oh, you like I was gonna ask this question a little bit later on, but I guess I'll ask it to you now. You also played other sports in high school. Sort of, how do you think it sort of helped you in your lacrosse career, especially soccer with, I guess, the footwork? I feel like that
Mhm.
definitely translates pretty seamlessly to lacrosse.
Definitely. And like the physicality of soccer. Um, and especially in high school, I was smaller compared to playing with older girls on the varsity teams and against older defenders. So I got used to being knocked around pretty young. So going to college and playing at that level, it's going to be pretty physical. So I think that that's mostly what I took from it and being super competitive always.
Now, before college, you played for your high school at Collinswood, like you mentioned. So just talk a little bit about your high school lacrosse days, what you took away from it, and like what's like the best memory you have from your lacrosse days at Collinswood when you look back on it now.
Yeah, so I was super lucky. In my high school career, we got a new young coach, Erin Waller, and she was just amazing. She like really came in and just wanted to grow the program, and I was really lucky to have a really great relationship with her, where like, we worked together to develop the team and make it a competitive atmosphere and a competitive just group of girls that just wanted to play, even though lacrosse wasn't their main focus or it wasn't really their sport. We just wanted to make it an environment that everybody just wanted to compete and play hard and just work at something. And that was just really fun to see over my 4 years. Just the program really grow and develop. We had not that many girls my early first 2 years. And then by the time I was a senior, we had a bunch of girls who basketball, soccer, that was their main sport, but they were athletes. So they were coming to play lacrosse and then they were falling in love with it. And when I was a senior, we had a couple really great freshmen. So I felt like I was leaving the program in a better place than I found it. And that was all because of Erin. And that was just so amazing to me. And I think that my best memory is just all of my senior year because that was just like a really great year. I got to really fill the role of being a leader and I loved it. And Erin and I worked really hard together. So I loved that.
How do you think your experience at Collinswood helped prepare you for college lacrosse with Sacred Heart and now LaSalle?
Yeah. So Erin, my coach, always really pushed me hard. She had very high expectations of me and she communicated that with me really well. So I was very disciplined and very, goal getter all through high school. And I think that that really prepared me because I always just was able to check in with myself, know what my goals were, and know what I needed to do to achieve them.
Now, let's talk about your initial recruiting process with Sacred Heart. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at?
Yeah, so I was recruited during COVID, so it was really weird. You couldn't meet any coach in person, and you couldn't even do an official visit. It was all Zooms and phone calls, and then you could go to the campus and do your own visit and go watch a practice. Um, I hadn't really heard of Sacred Heart. They reached out to me, and randomly enough, my sister, one of her club teammates from field hockey, went there. So I like randomly reached out to her and I was like, "Are you around to show me and my dad around because we can't have a official campus visit?" And she put on a great visit for us. It was awesome. And then I went to the practice and looked like my vibe. And yeah, I went with it. And anybody that goes to that campus, it sees that it's beautiful. How could you not fall in love with it? So that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I know they're rebuilding some athletic buildings as well. Is that true? Like it's all brand new, pretty much around the athletic center there right now.
Yeah, so everything is brand new. They're redoing the pit starting like this year, but the Bobby Valentine Center and then all of the upper quad, which is I was lucky enough to live there. That living situation is like gorgeous. It's
Hmm.
beautiful and it's all brand new. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Now, as a freshman, what was sort of the biggest adjustment you had to make in lacrosse wise? Was it sort of the physicality, speed of the game? Like what stood out to you the most?
My position. I came in as a midfielder, but we had a lot of fifth years and a lot of really talented seniors, so it was really upperclassmen heavy. So when I came in, my biggest change was the only open spot was the lefty crease. So I learned it. I didn't have never played the crease in my life. I learned it and I took it on, and I think that was the biggest change because going from a midi and driving high to the left side of the crease is just not the same at all. But it was fun. I liked the challenge.
Yeah, it must have been improved your defensive game too, and now it makes you more versatile as a player, which I feel like coaches must love that.
Definitely, yeah.
Now, your freshman year, your team won the NEC championship. Talk about that championship and what it meant to you, especially since Sacred Heart worked really hard to sort of get to that point.
Yeah, that championship was amazing. I mean, I had a really great freshman year. The leaders of that team were awesome. And, from the start of the season, I knew that that was the goal and that those fifth years and those seniors, they weren't leaving without going down without a fight. And I think that everybody was super bought into that. So when we finally won, it was just like everything, all the time, all the work, all the lifts and the training, it was all worth it. And it was just like the best feeling in the world, especially being a freshman. And also like Sacred Heart is far from home for me. So it was like the distance, the hard games, the cold games, like it was all worth it. It was just amazing. I was super proud.
Now, you guys played against North Carolina in the national tournament that year. Even though you guys lost, what did you take away from your first tournament experience ever?
That was incredible. It was like, it was so surreal. I mean, playing North Carolina was everybody's dream. I think that we all grew up watching them. So to be playing against them was just unreal. And it was also really fun to just watch them play. That next level was unreal. So it was awesome.
Now, throughout your time with Sacred Heart, you kept on improving and getting better. And obviously, like you mentioned, switching positions at times. So, what would you say is the biggest improvement you made to your game throughout your college career so far?
Um, I would say it was just my confidence, shooting stick work wise. I got really comfortable with being a finesse shooter, being on the crease. You're right at the step of the goal. So definitely just patience and shooting and finesse.
Now, you played in the NEC conference. So, talk about what it was like being a part of that conference, just the competition you face each game. And how do you think it's going to compare to the Atlantic 10 conference from what you've seen so far?
So the NEC was super fun. It is a smaller conference, and that's why I'm excited to go to the A10 because it is a much larger conference. It's bigger schools, bigger teams, and it's going to be a lot more competitive. I'm really excited to compete with those teams. It's definitely like just the next level, and I'm ready for it. It's the bigger schools, and I'm super excited to compete with them.
Which school are you most looking forward to facing next year? I feel like it's got to be UMass, just because I know they've had a good name for themselves in that conference the last few years.
I'm definitely excited to play UMass, but actually at Sacred Heart we would play UMass in the fall. So I
Hmm.
am excited to play Richmond because I've never played them before and they're another really good team of that conference. So I'm looking forward to both of them.
Hmm. Now, in your sophomore year, your team made it back to the NEC championship game, but instead you guys lost to Long Island. What did you take away from your sophomore season and that game in particular? Because I felt like a lot of people thought you were going to win that game, especially since you hosted, but unfortunately it didn't go your way. And LIU played one of the best games of their season that in that game.
Yeah, LIU is a great team. They're a fun team to watch. And I think in that game and the whole sophomore season, I just kind of learned that any day you can be asked to step up and it can be your moment. And in that championship game, I was fortunate enough to be asked to step up and, fill a role. And, even though we didn't win the game, I'm super proud of myself because it was a really big stage to step up on. And I feel like I did the best I could with the situation and playing against such a gritty and good LIU team. I felt like I did my best in that game, and I'm proud of myself because I stepped up, and that's all you can really ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you take away from your time with Sacred Heart? Obviously, there was probably a lot of ups and downs for yourself, but is that what's like the overall takeaway from your time at Sacred Heart, and what do you hope to sort of, I guess, apply to LaSalle and after graduation from what you've learned with the Pioneers?
Yeah, so I definitely just learned to take care of myself. Even like just off lacrosse, like just mentally and physically take care of yourself. I think I'm super driven on the field and all the athletic things, but taking care of my mind and just doing what's best for me. I think my whole life I've been a people pleaser, and this year those are my notes. Making this decision, it was this a decision I had to make for myself, and it was okay to be a little selfish and do this for me. So I think that that's something I'm going to take with me to LaSalle and even life after college of like just always doing what's best for me, and always obviously considering other people and thinking about how it affects everybody around me, but ultimately choosing what's going to make me happy and do what's best for me.
Yeah, I remember listening to this guy. He used to be a quarterback for USC, and he didn't really make it in the NFL. And he said one of the biggest reasons why was at the time when he was playing, the biggest athletes in the world were Kobe Bryant and Tiger Woods, and obviously everyone idolizes those guys, but their whole life was dedicated to their sport. And he says now there's other athletes that people idolize, like Scotty Scheffler and Nikola Jokic, who are both unbelievably talented, but their sport is just their profession, but they don't try to make it their whole lives. And
Yes.
he said if he took that approach a little bit more, he felt like he would have been more successful in football and the NFL. For sometimes one approach works for somebody, it doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone else. And it's sort of knowing yourself and sort of knowing which approach you think is best for you. And I just thought it was a really interesting conversation and sort of reflection that he had on his career.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely just like finding the person behind the athlete and caring for the person and the athlete for sure.
So let's move on to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, or 5 questions that have nothing to do with sports. The goal of the segment is to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field. And if you want me to answer any of these questions myself, I'll be happy to do it. But I don't think people care to hear what I have to say. So, first one is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Um, hmm. I can't think of an actor with curly hair right now. Um, my brother's pointing to himself. Um, maybe Jennifer Lawrence, because she's cool.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I think she has curly hair, but I could be wrong.
Maybe they can give her curls too.
Now, obviously, summer is the time for relaxing, and obviously, some big holidays are coming up, like 4th of July. So, what, in your opinion, is the most underrated holiday, and what, in your opinion, is the most overrated holiday?
The most overrated holiday is Halloween. I don't really love Halloween.
Hmm.
And the most underrated holiday I would say is Veterans Day because my dad he is retired. He was in the Air Force, and we all just feel like it's a little underrated. People should give it
Absolutely.
more love. Yeah.
Well, thank you to all the veterans that served this country. Obviously, it does deserve a lot more credit. Also, I'll go sort of a similar answer to you, Memorial Day. I
Yeah.
think that's doesn't get appreciated enough, and especially since I think people sometimes sort of forget what the holiday is about. So I think it's important to sort of take a step back and remember what that holiday is about. And then I agree with you with overrated Halloween. I think
Yeah.
once you turn a certain age, it doesn't hit the same as it used to. It's sort of
Mhm.
like taking away the best part of about a holiday, and it just, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it
No.
personally myself, so I agree
Yeah.
with you on that one. Now, what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Last night my family watched the prequel to the Hunger Games on President Snow. That's definitely interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've never seen or read Hunger Games before, so I couldn't give you a response on that.
Hunger Games is my thing.
Okay. Is it like similar to Harry Potter, I assume?
No,
Okay.
just Hunger Games. Yeah, I loved the Hunger Games growing up.
All right. All right. I definitely gotta watch it at some point. So,
Yeah,
I think for me, just watching the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals as well. We'll see if the Mavs or Oilers can complete a historic comeback. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never
yeah.
know. Now, obviously, I want to ask you this because I think this is an interesting question, but who had the best off the field style on the Sacred Heart women's lacrosse team?
Emma. Emma Kittredge, for sure.
Last non-lacrosse question is, what is one item on your bucket list that you hope to do one day?
Run a marathon.
I would love to do that too. Any specific marathon or just anyone? Because I would love
Something
to
in
do
the
the
city.
Boston Marathon because I know it's the most historical one.
That would be a good one, yeah. Probably that. I would agree with you.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to some lacrosse questions now. I guess first one is, what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse in your perspective?
Keep putting it on the TV. I
Yeah.
think that's just the best way. People are flipping through the channels and they see it. And when it's a competitive game, they're going to watch. So keep putting it on TV.
Sort of similar answer to yours, but staggered start times for the women's tournament. I
Yeah,
feel like they all start at the same time, so you can't
they do.
watch as many games as you can. Where in the men's tournament, they stagger the start time, so you can watch as many games as you want. And I feel like if you stagger the start times, it'll be easier for people to fall in love with different teams and players, and obviously that helps the sport grow. And
Mhm.
then trying to spread it to like different areas around the U.S. is also important as well, in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, Emmy, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, and friends? And who should we have on the podcast next?
Yeah, I'll shout out my family. They're great. And I'll shout out my future teammates that I haven't met yet, but can't wait. Um, I think you should have Juliet Wells from Villanova. She goes to Haddonfield, and I grew up playing with and against her, and she's great. And I think she would love this.
Awesome. We'll definitely reach out and see what she has to say. But Emmy, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time every day and coming on. I really appreciate it. I think you're a great player and even better person, and I can't wait to see what you accomplish with LaSalle for next season.
Thank you. I'm so excited. Sorry about my dogs.
No, it's all good. I love the dog appearance in the podcast. No one's going to be complaining about that.
All right.